there's no public comment, correct?
I mean, I think if we usually have that space at the beginning for general comments from the public that are not related to anything on the agenda. I'm not seeing, I do see one caller in here. I don't know if that's a member of the public, but if that is Tracy, we can certainly ask them if they have any comments they want to make to the members that are here.
And Mark, are you referring to
576.
right? 576, I just want to make sure you're not a member on the committee and you're a public member. Can you identify yourself, please?
What was the phone number?
It ends in 576.
Hold on, 969.
That's you.
Oh, that's, sorry, that
Whoever's
is me.
yeah, whoever's talking.
7576. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is Rob from ODOT. This is my first meeting. I can't get the Teams wasn't working for me, and it was just sitting there, and it looked like in the lobby, and it wouldn't let me in. So,
Do you want to try again?
yeah, let me go back and try that one more time.
All right.
So that makes us down 2.
That's correct, Donnie.
And then there is, and I'm reading the chat, Northwestern Towing and Mike Porter are also public members. So Donnie, looks like we do have, we can at least ask some folks if they want to make a comment during public comment. So right now, I'll just, go ahead, Donnie. Oh, Eric
Well,
is.
You were going to say something, Tracy?
I was just saying we have Eric signing on now as well.
Okay. Now we're down to 1.
I believe so. Camarina shaking her head yes.
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank everybody for showing up. Hopefully we get one more person to where we can actually have a full meeting. But since we're 10 minutes into it, we can open up for any public comments.
Well, Donnie, let's see first if there are any announcements from committee members, and then we'll move to item 3. So first, announcements from committee members, if any. All right, we'll now move to item 3, approval of the November 29th, 2022 meeting summary, and then Camarina will lead us through action items.
Can we approve without a quorum?
Oh, no, we can't. Thank you, Donnie. All right, Camarina, what about action items?
I just have one that I think we need to follow up on. Let me share my screen.
All right, you're able to do that now.
So Tim, this one is for you. Tim will discuss with Auto Return the possibility of pulling reports on the following metrics: average response time, trips through rotation, and passes in the rotation as a result of response times. Were you able to connect with them?
Yeah, so I have connected with them. Some of these metrics, so like average response times, we can probably get, that is something we track, would probably be valuable to pull a report and provide some context for that, for the folks who are interested in seeing that information. And then as far as trips through the rotation and passes in the rotation, those are things we don't currently have reports for, so we'll have to develop those reports with the Auto Return team, but we've brought that up. It's on their to-do list. So as soon as I have something I can present or provide to the committee members who are wanting to see that, I'm happy to. That being said, I do believe this was a action item related to the response times issue, maybe, or maybe this is unrelated. I'm not sure, but I was also going to give an update on response times and that issue later as well.
Great, thank you, Tim. Does anybody have questions for Tim regarding this action item? Okay, great, thank you. That's everything from me for now.
All right, and Paul says, I would be interested in the stats, even if they are just specific to our company. It would help us better track and manage our team. So we'll capture that log, and Camarina will keep that as an action item. So when we get that report, we can follow up. All right, Donnie, turning it back over to you, item 4.
Okay, anybody out there want to take a moment for some public comments? All righty. Then let's go ahead and move on down to topic 5 for
Oh,
some
Donnie?
updates. Yep, yep.
I see that Clark is entering the meeting, and that should put us at quorum, and we could go back to item number 3, approval of the minutes or meeting summary.
Perfect. Clark, you on with us?
I saw him sign on. I'm not sure.
Clark, you with us?
Clark, are you on the phone ending in 163? Oh, Devin, you're shaking his head. That's not Clark, huh? Here's someone else. There's Clark. You see the kind of haze and like it's in the clouds or something. So Clark is on. We can't see him. Clark, are you there? Well, why don't we, Donnie? Oh, so he's connecting to audio. Let's give him a few seconds here. And Robert, we will correct the spelling of your name. I see that in the chat, so we'll get that corrected.
Thank you.
All right, I wonder if Clark is having a challenge connecting to audio because it's still not happening. So Donnie, why don't you take us to the item you were going to mention?
Well, now that we have a quorum, can I get a motion to approve the meeting on 11/29/22? Anybody? It's like we got a motion from Devin. Can I get a second? I see Clark now. You're on mute, Clark.
And Donnie, I'm sorry, this is Robert Moda. I'll second.
Second. All 4 say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Any opposed? Minutes passed. Thank you all again for joining us. So we just passed the minutes. We've already, I'll go ahead and give one more shot at any public comments since we've had a couple of people join on. Anybody have any public comments? Alrighty, moving on. I'll go to topic 5. Going to get some updates from Tim.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for all being here. I have a couple items to give updates on. These were topic submissions that we had discussions about in previous meetings, and I think at this point we're kind of ready to put a pin in them. I don't think that the committee wanted to make a formal recommendation on these items, but don't let me sway you one way or the other. This is just my recollection. So the first one was the topic submission about regarding hazard tows requiring a release. So Amelia Brown with Police Auto Records has been working with their leadership to do additional trainings and make sure that the officers are using those requests correctly and entering that reasoning correctly, and then going to continue working on that. And when issues do come up, when it shouldn't be a hazard tow, you can reach out to me and or Amelia, and we'll work together to sort that out. The second item is the 20-minute ETA. So at this time, I believe, the contract is what it is. I don't think it's prudent to seek to adjust the contract at this time. However, as you all know, we're working on a new contract, and those ETAs have been adjusted to 30 minutes in that document, I believe. So unless we get any pushback from agencies regarding that, that can be the expectation moving forward. In addition, we've discussed both in this meeting and outside of it with towing partners and some agency partners, the idea of when you can't make a 20-minute or 30-minute ETA, to put in to accept the call and put in the ETA you can meet, and that way the folks on the other end, if they're waiting on standby or sitting around, maybe they, instead of going through the rotation a whole nother time, and you can get there in 45 or 30, then that might be reasonable to them. And it doesn't have to take a bunch of trips through the rotation because you can't get there in 20. So moving forward, I think that's how we're going to do things. And then, of course, I said we'll have some new language in the new contract. And then the last item on the agenda is the expedited tows. So based on the information we gathered from agency partners, it seemed like, first of all, the term expedited tows or anything like that was not used consistently between agencies, and there's no legal authority for towers to use lights, take emergency lanes in almost any situation. And so I think it is prudent and appropriate for in situations where there is where speed is important and valuable, that it's incumbent on maybe the agency to escort. So having a police escort or ODOT escort who have the authority to have the lights on and take the emergency lane and what have you. And it's not appropriate for towers to be, making unsafe, driving decisions or breaking any state laws because they got an expedited tow. There is a conversation we could have about priority. So, which we do not currently have in the new contract that we're drafting. But that is something we can talk about. If a call comes in for a specific reason, a rollover or something, we get something, a real serious accident, then we can talk about priority and how that could work, how that could be automated. And so that other calls get not bumped down the line, and we make sure that some emergency gets dealt with more quickly. That's, like I said, that is something we can talk about, but I don't think that expedited is something that we should continue using, and that language has been removed from the contract moving with the new contract. I do want to give an update regarding the contract. I've been talking about it a lot. A lot of us have been talking about it offline as well. Just it's a big topic right now. So update is that we have a tentative council date to get approval for the RFQ or RFP on February 22nd. So we're about a month out. That gives us enough time to get the last few opinions and the last few little road bumps ironed out and get it in front of council and hopefully get some approvals on this. And as soon as that's done, we're gonna get it out to our tow partners to get some proposals. That's all I've got, guys. Any questions for me on those topics? Devin, what do you got? You're on mute, Devin.
All right, got it. Just want to make sure that I understand correctly that the plan is goes to council, comes back to this committee and or towers for any thoughts, and then back to council?
No. Let's just to be clear, it goes to council. Council is strictly going to give us permission to publish the RFP. Once that RFP is in RFP format, you can't look at it until it's actually submitted, or I should say published for your solicitation. So this committee will not review the contract that's attached to that RFP or the RFP itself, because then you would have access to information that those on the outside would not. If that makes sense. And that tentative date that Tim gave you, I mean, we're going to do everything we can to stick to the date. That is the date that we asked for. We are not in control of that. Tim or myself or my boss is not in control of that. So if that date changes, Tim can certainly give you an update, but that is the date that we're shooting for. And if everything goes well, we'll ask for emergency approval. That way we don't have to wait for an additional council date for the actual vote, which would take place 2 weeks later. We're going to seek emergency approval. But worst case scenario, we have to wait 2 weeks. Council then takes action on us releasing that solicitation. And then hopefully by mid-March, it's on the street. And at this point, we are anticipating we'll give people 30 days to respond while we work on gathering the review committee. And then hopefully right after the 30 days and we start receiving those proposals, we'll get the committee to review and make recommendations.
Mark, Eric has a question in the chat. Will the contract be sent to agency partners?
Some of the agency partners can look at the contract. Yes, they can. Now, we've been in contact with some of the agency partners as we have gone through and made some of the changes to the contract, because, you know, you guys have been working on a contract that's probably, I don't know, you guys know better than me, 20 years, 30 years old. So there were a lot of things that we needed to update in the contract. And I will say this, that once that contract is released, okay, if there are things in there that you see and you go, whoa, it's not done like that anymore, you can let us know. And Tim still has some flexibility to go in and make those changes to that contract. When you look at 127 or 140 pages, Tim, I don't know what it is. I can tell you, no matter how often you look at it and how often you review it, you will always find something wrong every single time. So we certainly anticipate that some of the towers that plan to bid on the RFP or submit their proposals are going to see things that probably aren't right. And if you find errors in there, let us know. We can still fix them before those contracts are issued for signature. Are there any other questions, Tracy?
No, I don't. Oh, Donnie, do you have a question or comments?
Yeah, so what about, did you guys already put down for new rates? Is this gonna, or is the rate committee gonna be able to affect the contract after the contract? Or should we get the rates and committee done first before the new contract?
That's a good question. We need to probably make sure that we have a formal recommendation from the committee, okay? Hopefully before this proposal hits the street, because people are going to want to see what rates they're bidding on, what the city is willing to pay. People are going to want to see that. So the sooner that committee gets together and makes some sort of formal recommendation through this group, and Donnie, if we have to, we can do an online vote. Okay, if we're running up against the clock, we can say, hey, here are the rates that the subcommittee is proposing, and have the committee vote on those rates. And we will introduce those rates to management. And again, hopefully before this thing hits the street, sooner the better.
Okay.
Mark, there's a question from Northwestern Towing. So we will tentatively get this contract at the beginning of March, and we can reach out to Tim if we see any adjustments that need to be made.
Look, let me be clear. So the contract that you will see in March will be attached to the actual solicitation, okay? And that is not a time to negotiate the contract. I want to be clear about that. If you see something that we just missed, I mean, an error in that language in that contract, please let us know, and we will fix that error. Okay. Now, there might be things in the contract that you don't like about the contract. We need to address those after all of those proposals have been submitted. And we will work with procurement on negotiations, basically, is where we will be. But that happens after your proposal has been submitted.
Any additional questions or comments?
If we get to that point, and let's just say all the people that submitted a proposal, because this is a little bit different than most of the contracts the city has, or most of the solicitations that the city publishes. A lot of times we're looking for one vendor, right? We're looking for one vendor sits or gets selected, or the intent, they get the letter of intent to select this particular vendor. And then that vendor has an opportunity. Well, everything's great, but we want to negotiate this section here. Can we negotiate that section there? Procurement rules allow us to do that. Where it's different is, we plan to pick several towers like we have today, right? And we're going to have to kind of work with procurement on the negotiations, because one tower can't negotiate one change in their contract that doesn't apply to all the others. Whatever revisions we make to the contract after we receive and review those proposals, it's gonna have to apply to all the contracts before they're issued for signature, if that makes sense. So it's going to be a little different. We just have to work with procurement to help us navigate that. Does that make sense to Paul, whoever that was that answered that?
Yes, he wrote another comment and said yes.
Okay.
Donnie, back to you.
And that's all you have, Tim?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is under myself. We have been reaching out to try to form this subcommittee. Obviously, there's more urgency in it now. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, I think we only have one volunteer from that's a non-tower, non-agency. We may just have to go with that at this point. So I will work on getting a meeting set up as soon as possible. Obviously, we're under a timeline now, so that's all I have on that. I've been waiting on, I've submitted out for volunteers, and we just haven't had a whole lot of people signing up, but I will get definitely on top of that. Any questions?
Are there other towers who have volunteered to be on that committee?
Yeah, so right now I had myself and Devin available. Yeah, I was going to leave it with just a couple towers and a couple agencies and a couple citizens. so far we only have one citizen, so.
Donnie, in the chat, Paul from Northwestern Towing says he or they would volunteer for the subcommittee, and the subcommittee can have non-committee members. They don't have the ability to vote, however, but they can come to every subcommittee meeting, give feedback. They just cannot vote.
Well, I appreciate that. Based off the recommendation from Mark, he thought that we should only leave it with two towers, because there's other towers that wanted to be on the committee as well, but through Mark's recommendation, he felt like we didn't want to be too heavy coming from the industry. And so that's why I went with his recommendation and stuck with two. I do appreciate the volunteer, but I think we should probably lean towards that. I don't want to be too heavy on that side.
Mark, your hand,
Yeah.
you have a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to comment on that just for everybody else that's in the room. You don't want to go to city council and say, we want to increase rates and have the question come up and they say, well, who on the committee came up with that? Oh, it was these 5 tow companies. Okay, so what we're looking for is a balance, right? We wanted to make sure that we had some public representation, some agency representation, and towing industry representation. And so I was really concerned about the optics, and that's why I encouraged Donnie to move this way.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and move forward to topic 7. This was submitted by Devin. Costs associated with the city administrative fees. Devin, did you want to explain what you're talking about?
I think if I remember right, I submitted this a while ago, but when we have the city service fee, the parking fee, the dispatch fee, all those fees that are pass-through fees, when we accept a credit card, we have to pay the credit card fee on that fee, and then I have to pay the city for that fee as well. So I don't know what I said. So if I pay $100 in fees and I pay a 3% credit card fee, it actually costs me 103, and I only get 100 from the customer. So I feel like there should be some small margin on those fees. That a dollar or something, because there are costs, and it's not just the cost of the credit card processing. There's the cost of, I've got accounting staff that has to process the bill that I get from the city and then pay the city that city service, the dispatch fee, the parking enforcement fee, the abandoned autos fee. I can't think of any others. I think that's all of them, but there are costs involved. And so it's not just a pass through of $38 to $38. So I'd like to see something done about it.
Mark?
Thank you. So what I would suggest as we, as these topics come up that are really associated with rates, overall toll rates, is that those folks get that information to the committee so that the subcommittee can take into consideration what that overall rate is going to be. It's going to be much easier to say, here's the new toll rate that we recommend, and in that, we've accounted for all those additional costs that you're discussing, that you just mentioned, Devin, rather than go in and say, here's our proposed rate plus reimbursed for credit card fees. We want to be reimbursed for toll fees. We want to be reimbursed for mileage fees. We want to be reimbursed for, clean air fees. It's going to get complicated. So my recommendation is that you incorporate all those fees in one rate that represents them all.
Devin, do you have comments related to that?
I don't think so. I think that, we'll do it in the pricing committee part.
Anybody else have any other questions? All right, we'll move down to topic 8, dispatch fees. This one's under my name and I'm not sure why. I thought this was also Devin.
Donnie, I may have made a mistake on the agenda. Let me look at the,
I can,
yes, I'm sorry, Devin, this is your topic submission.
I don't remember what I put the submit, what, does it say anything in the submission?
Yes, it reads, sometimes we pass calls because we would be unable to meet a 20-minute ETA. Does that ring a bell?
We've gone over that already.
No, this is dispatch fees. It should have been a different submission. The 20-minute ETA was something that,
But if it has to do with
Covered.
fees, then again, we should probably end up talking about that in the subcommittee.
anybody got anything else? We can move forward, move on. All right, we'll go ahead and move down to number 9. Indemnification for non-tower faults, also submitted by Devin.
You know, other people can actually submit things. That's what it feels like. We got a notice from Department of Justice about some tows we did on a homeless camp cleanup. And they wanted to know about it because they wanted to make sure they got a complaint from a citizen. And when we do tows at the direction of the city, whatever branch or fleet or PBOT or whoever it is, I feel like we should not get in trouble, whether sued or whatever, from somebody for doing things at your direction. Now, if we damage the vehicle, totally different situation. That's on us. But you know, if we tow something and the citizen wants to sue somebody about the tow, it feels like it should not be us.
Tim or Mark, you got anything on this at all?
Tim, I
can comment.
comment.
Yeah, no, I can comment. I actually talked to one of our attorneys about this last week. I emailed him and then had a short conversation with him later in the week. Because this came up and I saw the topic submission. And I know it's not the first time it's come up, and we have concerns from some of our towing community about liability. And we get into these situations, and especially with our abandoned towers for picking up these cars, it makes sense to have a concern about liability. Essentially what our attorney told us is very similar to what you kind of came to, Devin, is like there are situations where if a tower is clearly at fault and drops a vehicle, like doesn't hook it right, and it falls off the back of the car and damages the vehicle, well, they're going to hold the ropes for that one. And there's indemnification language in our contract to make sure that we don't end up on the hook for something like that because we ordered the tow. Now, if there's something where there's a wrongful tow, something happens, and this comes up. In fact, it came up this week where, you know, just the wrong vehicle got towed. You know, everyone thought we had the right thing. End of the day, turns out we got the wrong vehicle. Now, I think that any person would be hard pressed to say that that was the tower's fault, that the tower somehow took an action, like they were ordered to take a tow under a contract, and everything that the tower did was in accordance with Oregon law and the contract. And so, and again, this is what my attorney, our city attorney, said to me, is that basically it's one of those that if the tower's not at fault, the tower won't be held accountable. And based on the indemnification language in our contracts, and in our city code, even with certain PPI code contracts or tows, there are gray areas. Devin and everyone else. You know, there are gray areas with indemnification and liability, and we will run into those gray areas. It is guaranteed because of this industry. But for the vast majority of them, and the most that I've seen, and I know that they like I said, they've come through. A lot of you guys have reached out to me when you get notification. And when we get stuff from about legal issues, legal holds, lawsuits regarding the city, we go through the same thing. We need fact finding, and a lot of that indemnification language is just so that we can do the fact finding, so that we can figure out who needs to take care of it. And a lot of times it ends up being the city. And I think that the city, in most cases, has been good faith players, and our city legal teams have been pretty upfront and forward about it. But when we do have a complaint come through, like risk management or the auditor's office, we do have to do fact finding. A lot of times we do ask the towers to participate in that. And that can be kind of scary, especially when you get, legal holds or subpoena type language in the mail. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're being held accountable for it. But I'd be happy to talk to you more about it. If the committee had recommendations about it, I'd be absolutely interested in hearing what those would sound like. I will say that the city language used in our contracts is essentially set in stone. That language is going to be it will be more than an uphill battle to get that specific language changed. But I think that if you guys have, again, good faith recommendations and some specific case examples, that was the other thing our attorney mentioned, is if you have specific situations that you're concerned about or having issues with, we can address those as they come up. But I definitely want to be receptive to those concerns. And I know when they do come up, you guys will reach out to me, and I try to be quick to reply and make sure that, I never want any of our vendors or contractors to end up holding the reins on something that should be ours. So I guess that's what I can say on. I don't know if Mark, you have something to add to it.
I was just going to ask Devin if he was at liberty to share the nature of the complaint, because I would assume that something would first start at the code hearings. I mean, somebody would have filed an appeal, I would think, first before they went to the DOJ. Can you share anything about it?
Oh, yeah, I don't know, bro. I shared the email with Tim. So
okay.
The person does not have a very good complaint, frankly. They've got no vehicle information other than, brown Ford and blue Volvo kind of stuff. But based on the date and the fact that we did tow, similar vehicles, we know which ones it is. But it's not that specific complaint. It's hey, I'm going to sue the city. And because I'm suing the city, I'm going to sue everybody else I can connect to this, which then means for me to be prudent, I now have to hire an attorney. And I don't think your attorney is going to be willing to represent me in that case. And so that's the expense I'm concerned about. Not that I'm going to be at fault, not that a judge or a jury is going to find me at fault, but that for prudence sake, I have to hire an attorney. And I don't feel like I should have to on that kind of situation. Now, if I have to, then I got to figure it at the cost of doing business and figure it as okay, so I've got this expense. Is the contract worth doing, knowing I might possibly have this expense in the future?
Johnny, this is a discussion item. If the committee moves it to an action item, I would recommend that there be more specific on what the action item would be. As Tim said, the city will not change the language. If that's the case, then I don't know what the action item would be.
I don't think there's going to be anything that can be done. I mean, I think Tim's right. It's one of those things.
All right. So, Johnny, you're saying no further action will be taken on this item?
Yeah, we'll go. Yeah, no further action on this one.
Okay, and Donnie, before you move to the next agenda item, Eric in the chat said he would be available for a subcommittee, for your subcommittee, if you need that. And then, Donnie, someone's asking what would be the time commitment for the subcommittee? Rob is asking what would be the time commitment?
I'm definitely one full meeting. May take 2 quick meetings, I'm hoping. I'm hoping less than 90 minutes each, but we got to try to get in 2 meetings here within a month. And correct me if I'm wrong, we'd have to have a meeting next month before this 22nd date, correct, Mark?
Yeah, but we could also solicit a vote from the committee members, via SurveyMonkey online. We can do that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we could do that then. Okay. All right. So we don't have the pressure for that. All right. I'm thinking at a minimum of 2 meetings. And like I said, hopefully no more than 90 minutes. I think we could probably wheel through it.
Okay, let me
Thank you
double
for
check on
going.
some stuff, and I'll let you know by email in a day or 2.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. We got one more topic for Devin, timely payment of invoices by the city.
Again, I'm not sure what the contract says, but whatever the contract says that we have to pay our bills in should be the same that the city has to pay their bills in. You know, if we are required to pay our city service fees within 30 days, the city should be required to pay us for tows within 30 days. So I just wanted to make sure the wording in the contract is equal.
Yeah.
Mark or
So
Tim?
yeah, thanks guys. Yeah, we are asking for the towers to be on a net 30 with payments, and we are aiming to be in that same net 30. Hopefully quicker. I love to have a quick turnaround. I hate stuff sitting on my desk, and I guarantee when this contract is off my desk, I'll have a lot more time to push through your invoices. Not to mention that I'll have a lot less invoices to go through because there will be a lot less contracts. Meaning that we're going to award a single contract to each tower as opposed to contracts for each district you service. So there's, in a lot of ways, we're going to streamline things. And me joking about getting this off my plate is stuff always comes up, but our goal now and moving forward is 30 days or less. I know that there's still ongoing weird procurement things, and folks who are being impacted by that should know about that. And I'm trying to be really clear and upfront when those things do come up. And me and Mark and Sheila do everything we can to get those dealt with as quickly as possible. And those of you who've worked with the city for a long time know that sometimes, things don't move that fast with us. And I can't say, I don't have any excuses other than if we're gonna get through these as quick as possible when we do run into issues, and then as soon as we resolve them, we do everything we can to get caught up quickly. And again, I know that more than one of you out there in this room have run into those things with us. So anytime that does happen, I apologize. I know that's not always, it's sorry salve for a wound, but I do want to let you know that it is important to us, and we are making that same commitment in the contract to have 30-day both sides.
Mark?
I just want to publicly acknowledge the hard work that Tim is doing in the tow administration. I want the committee members to know, and Devin, you are absolutely right. We need to improve. There is no argument. You're not going to hear one here. But Tim is probably the only program manager in the city of Portland that processes the number of invoices that he does for his department. I've been kind of advocating to get Tim some accounting help. But a long time ago, when Patrick was here, at one time, right before I got here, Patrick had accounting helping him with invoicing and things like that. Shortly after that, they said, you've got way too much. You've got way too much. You need to find your own processor. So we did that, and for a short time, and then, you know, shortly after that, COVID hit. So the type of work that Tim does in the accounting world, in other bureaus and other divisions, there's somebody that helps with that. And so I just want to acknowledge the work that Tim and Sheila are doing with the accounting, and we're going to continue to work to improve and get better with these payments. And I think then in the new contract, having one contract that represents all the districts, all of the stuff that we're doing can only help.
Donnie, I just want to confirm the next step. It's discussion and confirm whether or not this item will go to forward as an action item.
Well, it sounds like the city's working on it. Devin, you satisfied with the answer that you got?
The answer is we will continue to get penalized for being late, even if my accounting person has a COVID, and the city will not get penalized for being late.
Hey,
And they will do the best they can. And I get it. Tim's great. I love Tim. He's a wonderful guy. But
are we penalizing you though, Devin? Are we?
Look at it. Well, you have not yet. Are you
Okay.
capable? Are you capable of doing it? The answer is yes. It's in the contract. There are penalties for us being late. There are no penalties for the city being late. And I again, it's just one of those things that it's probably just going to be the way it is. And if we want to work with the city, then again, this is not Tim. This is not about Tim. Tim is a great advocate for towers, and he's been doing a great job with what he's got. But it doesn't change the fact that you know, we were owed well over $100,000 for over a year, and I still got to make payroll. And there's nothing I can do against the city to get my money other than go to Tim and say, hey, buddy, I really appreciate your effort. Please continue to try to get me my money. And that's real world money trying to make payroll. And I appreciate that Tim had a hard time, but if there's no teeth to being late, then it's you know, if there's no threat to me to being late, then why don't I just not pay you? But if I know that lurking out there, there's the possibility that eventually Tim says you can't be on the contract anymore because you're not paying your bill. You know, I know that threat's back. Now, chances are at 31 days, Tim's not pulling my contract. You know, he's gonna go, hey, dude, you're running late. You need to make a payment. I go, okay, no problem, got it. And he's really nice. But eventually I could lose the contract if I don't pay my bill. So again, I doubt if anything's really going to happen. It's a hope of making things a little more, you know, even, and bringing it to the attention, because I know, Clark knows, Donnie knows, Tim knows, Mark knows, but do the other people in the other departments, do the citizens know, do they understand what's happening here? And that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, it's a absolutely a valid concern, and you know, we're gonna keep working on it. And I'm excited to get, you know, for this RFP to come out so you guys can have a chance to look at what we're proposing and give some feedback, because I think a lot of this stuff will be addressed in there. I hope so. Fingers crossed. You know, I hope that we ticked a lot of those boxes.
Well, why don't we drop this one, and we could always bring it back later down the road if needed. Well, that's everything on the list. Do we need to schedule our next meeting here?
The next meeting, Donnie, is on the calendar.
We haven't, yeah.
Well, we went to monthly. I guess before we keep that one, with the contract due to come out on the 22nd, I'm looking kind of more for an opinion out of Mark and Tim. Would it be best to go 60 days on this one instead of trying to have a meeting right before that?
Because Mark, right now, the meeting is scheduled for February 28th.
Yeah,
I was at the 28th.
yeah, it's the
Correct.
28th. And we're shooting for the 22nd for a council date. So I would suggest that we keep the date. If we need to cancel at the last minute, I think that's easy enough to do. But until I know my council dates are firm, I think we keep the meeting date on the calendar.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right. Well, that's it. I super appreciate everybody's time.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead, Todd.
Thank you, sorry. In the November meetings, there was a note, the bottom of page 2 about officers ordering tows through BOIC because the Aries iPhone app was broken, but expected to be fixed in January 2023. Do we know if that's happened?
I believe the iPhone iOS app is active. Amelia, your team has been utilizing that app, I believe, or your officers. Finding the mute button.
Yeah. That was it. I was like, where's that mute button?
Yeah.
So, I was thinking about it. I haven't checked in with any officers recently to see if they've been using the app or if they're still going through BOIC. I'm sure just because of, just habit, I'm sure most of them are still going through BOIC, but I will check to see if any of them are using the app. I'll try to, we can put that down as my action item if we want to check that out. I'm more than happy to do that.
Do they need training on it, or do they all know how to use it?
They should all know how to use it.
That'd be
But
great if
Todd,
you can- be great if they did use it.
Yes, agreed.
yeah, we will, I can follow up with Auto Return as well. I have a meeting with them on Thursday, so I'll follow up with them on that item. But I believe it's released, it's available. If folks want access to it, so if agencies want access to that, I think that, let me know, shoot me an email, and I can, because it's locked in the App Store. You have to have, so you need to be invited basically, because it's a special app for folks with an account to make requests. So let me know and I can arrange that. I don't know exactly how it works, but I can make sure that you get invite or the appropriate link.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions out there? Righty, well, thanks again for everybody coming and spending your time with us. Thanks for all the updates, Tim.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
See you.
Camarina, can you stay on 1 quick minute, please?
Sure, Tracy.
So Camarina, just real quick, thank you for your flexibility. I mean, my Auntie Velma, she has the biggest family, no less.
Mm-hmm.
And her niece, Carolyn, and I, we went, oh, hold on.
Oh, sure.